Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're diving into a framework that treats free speech as so much more than just a constitutional right. We're actually going to look at it like a literal civic superpower. We're going to explore this incredible intersection of liberty, your personal voice, and a responsible press. By the end of this, we'll see exactly how this right shapes our reality, how it stays protected, and how it fundamentally impacts the world around us. So, let's jump right in. I want you to stop and think about this for a second. What if the government could just silence any opinion they didn't like? Imagine waking up in a world where you literally couldn't complain about an unfair law, or where you couldn't write an article exposing a bad policy. Imagine if simply sharing a new, unpopular idea can actually land you in jail. I mean, it sounds like the plot of a dystopian movie, right? But the crazy thing is, for many people throughout history, and even for some around the world today, that is their reality. The stakes of what we are analyzing today are incredibly high, because the freedoms we're discussing are the invisible shield protecting your everyday life.
All right, here is our visual syllabus for today's exploration. We'll start with the power of your voice, move into the press as a watchdog, look at history makers in action, cover the boundaries of freedom, and finally wrap up with morality, education, and peace. Starting with Section 1, the power of your voice, understanding the First Amendment.
To really grasp this power, we have to look at the ultimate tool for a free society. It is the absolute cornerstone of how we communicate, how we disagree, and ultimately, how we grow. These are arguably some of the most impactful words in human history. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. What this actually means in plain English is that the government generally cannot stop people from expressing their ideas, and they cannot stop the media from publishing information. It basically forms this massive, invisible protective bubble around your ideas. So whether you're writing a blog post, speaking at a local town hall, or just having a heated debate with a friend, the government cannot step in and shut you down just because they don't like what you're saying.
Now, this principle is brilliantly echoed in Proverbs 31:8, which says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute." This perfectly illustrates the bridge between our constitutional civic rights and our biblical duty to help others. Having the right to speak isn't just about yelling your own opinions into the void, It's about advocacy. It's about standing up for those who are vulnerable, poor, or marginalized. Your voice is a tool, and it's a tool meant to be used for good.
Moving on to Section 2, the press as a watchdog, protecting democracy and truth. And this brings up a great question. Why exactly is the press called a watchdog?
Well, think about what a literal watchdog does. It stays awake while you sleep. It pays close attention to everything, and if someone tries to break into your house, it barks loudly to wake you up and warn you of the danger. The watchdog press does the exact same thing for our democracy. Journalists act as watchdogs by digging into what the government, massive corporations, and powerful people are actually doing. They expose corruption, and they share new ideas. And the best part? Because of the First Amendment, they can do all of this without the fear of the government punishing them or just tossing them in a jail cell. This ensures that you and I, the citizens, are never cut off from important truths.
It all boils down to this really simple equation. Open debate equals better decisions. Freedom of speech and the press protects democracy specifically because it allows us to hash things out. Even if an opinion is totally unpopular, it can still be shared openly. Think about it. When we silence opposing views, we are only ever getting half the story. But when we allow open, honest debate, all the facts finally hit the table. We get to see the flaws in our own arguments. We learn from other people. And as a whole society, we end up making much better choices for everyone.
Section 3. History makers in action. Speech that shaped America. So, how has this actually played out in the real world? We know the theory behind free speech, but in practice, it has historically made a massive difference across the centuries. Let's walk through this timeline. Back in the 1770s, during the American Revolution, it was literally the printing press and local newspapers that spread the ideas of liberty. Without those essays and pamphlets shaping public opinion, the revolution honestly might never have succeeded. Now jump forward to the 1950s and 60s, during the Civil Rights Movement. It was the absolute power of collective voices, speeches, and news broadcasts showing the harsh reality of segregation that demanded change and moved the conscience of the entire nation. And today? Well, today we are in the digital age. The press isn't just paper anymore, right? It's television, radio, online news sources, podcasts, the whole shebang. The tools have definitely changed, but the fundamental power of speech to shape our society, that remains exactly the same.
Let's look at Section 4, the boundaries of freedom, the user manual for your voice. Let's get into the fine print of this superpower.
Because like any superpower, there is a user manual. You see, the law draws a very strict line between protected speech and unprotected speech. On one side, you absolutely have the right to open debate. You have the right to criticize the government, to share unpopular opinions, and to protest peacefully. That is all heavily protected. But on the flip side, free speech is not entirely unlimited. The First Amendment is not just a free pass to say absolutely anything you want, anywhere you want, with zero consequences.
So here are the specific boundaries you need to know. Unprotected speech includes making direct threats against someone. It includes inciting violence, meaning, you can't use your words to try and start a riot or encourage people to physically hurt others. And importantly, it includes spreading harmful lies. Knowing these limits is absolutely crucial because it helps you use your voice wisely and respectfully. If you cross these lines, the First Amendment is not going to shield you.
Now, when we talk about spreading harmful lies, there are two really important vocabulary terms you need to know: libel and slander. Both of these involve spreading false statements that harm someone's reputation. The difference is, slander is when you speak those lies out loud, and libel is when you write them down or publish them. This is pretty much the ultimate example of unprotected, harmful speech. You have the freedom to seek the truth, for sure, but you do not have the right to invent vicious lies that destroy another person's life or livelihood. Freedom always requires truth.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, Morality, Education, and Peace, the HeroesMart philosophy. Let's connect all of this to how we actually live our lives. Let's do a really quick recap of our 3 main takeaways from the source material today. First, freedom protects debate. Yes, even the unpopular opinions. Second, the press acts as a watchdog to expose corruption without fear. And third, responsible speech. This third point is kind of the anchor for everything else. Freedom comes with a very real moral duty to speak truthfully and respectfully.
This whole concept is perfectly summarized in the HeroesMart Academy philosophy. It starts with a simple progression. Step 1 is to gain an education. You have to know your rights, like the First Amendment. But, and this is key, education alone just isn't enough. Step 2 is to apply biblical morality. Why? Well, because as the philosophy states, education without morality will hurt. I mean, what is the point of being smart, knowing all the laws, and being supposedly educated if you just continue to make choices that hurt yourself and the people around you? You need a moral framework to guide your education, which naturally leads to step 3, preventing those bad choices. When you use your voice, you shouldn't just be asking, hey, is this legal? You should be asking, is this right? Is this helpful? Is this actually true?
When you combine a solid education with a deep moral foundation, something really incredible happens. Romans 8:6-7 promises peace of mind to everyone who keeps their mind spiritual. And honestly, this is the ultimate goal of everything we've talked about today. It's the experience of so many people who deeply engage with this way of living. When you speak the truth, when you advocate for the destitute, when you respect the boundaries of free speech by avoiding slander and malice, you don't just become a good, active participant in society. You actually achieve a true, lasting peace of mind. Your civic actions and your spiritual mind completely align.
So, I want to leave you with this final, empowering question to chew on. How will you use your free speech responsibly today? Think about it. You have this incredible superpower. You know the First Amendment. You know the history, the boundaries, and the moral framework needed to use it well. So whatever you do, don't let it go to waste. Speak up for the truth, advocate for those who need it most, and use your voice to make the world just a little bit brighter. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and I absolutely cannot wait to see how you use your voice out there. See you next time.